Esteemed members of this august house, today I rise here not just to respond to the union budget that was presented by the Honorable Finance Minister for the year 2025-26, but also to expose the grand illusion it weaves, a mirage, a deception, or rather a golden deer budget. Well, all of you must be wondering, why am I referring to this budget as the golden deer budget? The 2025 union budget is nothing but a Marich moment from the Ramayana, an elaborate illusion designed to deceive. Just as the demon Marich took the golden form of deer to lure Ma Sita away, the NDA government has crafted a shiny, dazzling budget promising prosperity while hiding the economic catastrophe beneath. This budget might shimmer, but it's hollow as a treasure chest filled with air. It has flashy promises of tax cuts, economic growth, infrastructure hype to distract the common man, but beneath this illusion lies a brutal reality. Hidden indirect taxes, soaring inflation, slashed public spendings, and last but not the least, corporate giveaways. Just as Ma Sita was misled, the common people are being pulled away from financial stability straight into a fiscal wrecking ball. This government proudly proclaims no income tax for incomes up to 12 lakh rupees. But behind the scenes, they silently ensure the lost revenue is recovered through rising fuel prices, inflated service charges, hidden taxes on daily essentials, and the middle class, much like Lakshman warning Ma Sita, is skeptical, but BJP's propaganda and PR machinery is desperately working overtime to ensure that the common man and the people of this country still chase the golden deer anyway. What is given by one hand is being swiftly taken by the other. Just as in Ramayana, by the time people realize and recognize the deception, the economy has already been handed over to the Ravanas of crony capitalism, while the common man is left struggling to afford groceries, fuel, travel, healthcare, and even a simple movie night, all while being taxed for merely just existing. Madam, the budget presented by the NDA government is a masterclass in half-truths, half accountability, half delivery of schemes, and half-hearted governance. From half-built houses under PMAY to half-achieved farmer income targets, the government continues to sell dreams while delivering only fragments of reality. Infrastructure projects remain half-finished, welfare schemes reach half the beneficiaries, and their failed economic policies cater to half the population, leaving the rest in uncertainty. This is not a vision for developed India. It's a half-baked agenda wrapped in propaganda. Make no mistake, much like demonetization, GST, and the draconian farm laws, the full extent of devastation will only be visible when the smoke clears. I'll start with half-truths. So the NDA government in Maharashtra launched the Ladki Behan. Ma'am, the NDA government in Maharashtra launched the Ladki Behan DBT scheme for women in Maharashtra just before the assembly elections last year to use it as a political bait. Now with the elections over, they have conveniently started scrutinizing beneficiaries, thus removing 60 lakh women from the scheme. This is yet another jumla running deep in your veins, and people see through this betrayal and they are watching. Another betrayal, ma'am. Before the elections, the government promised a legal guarantee for MSP. After the election, the promise have disappeared without a trace. Madam Finance Minister is here and I'm glad she's present in the House. She in her speech mentioned that, and she began her speech with a flourish on agricultural growth. But when it came to MSP, the one demand that every farmer of this country has raised, there was only silence. No legal guarantee, no relief from the crippling debt. Instead of waiving farm loans, the government has increased the Kisan credit limit, which essentially means handing farmers more debt than relief. Since 2014, And whatever data I'm quoting in the House, if the chair wants, I'll lay it on the table of the House before tonight. Ma'am, since 2014, in the last 10 years, there have been 1 lakh farmer suicide. That's 1 suicide every hour. These aren't just numbers. They're a grim reminder of a system that abandons those who feed the nation while they conveniently feed lies to the entire country. They boasted of digital India, but conveniently ignore the dire state of our schools. While flashy slogans flood social media, the harsh reality is PM Poshan remains stagnant, leaving millions of children without nutritious food. More than 50% of the children under the age of 5 suffer from chronic malnutrition, with 17% underweight, 36% stunted, and 6% wasted. A crisis screaming for attention, and yet the budget for PM Poshan remains dejectedly inadequate, proving once again that the union government is invested more in headlines than hungry children. Another half-truth: before the elections, the NDA government or the ruling party, BJP, promised LPG cylinders for all. But in reality, 1.2 crore households, I repeat the figure, 1.2 crore households could not afford even a single refill in 2022-23 because of their exorbitant price hikes. This is not upliftment. This is abandonment. When people have to choose between a meal and a refill, their promise is nothing but a cruel joke. In 2019, the cabinet approved 8,574 crore for the census. Yet in 2025, today, even after 5 years, only 570 crore has been allocated in this year's budget. 5 years late and still counting. And this is not happening this year either. But why does this matter? Why am I talking about census? Because without a census, every policy, every income tax slab revision, and every economic projection is simply and just a blind projection and a blind gamble. The Nari Shakti Vandan Adhiniyam, Women Reservation Act, which was passed by calling a special session 18 months back in 2023, can't be implemented as its rollout depends on the completion of the next census and subsequent delimitation. Both are yet to be scheduled. The government seems to prefer running the country on guesstimates and propaganda rather than real data, because facts expose their failures and they would rather keep the nation in the dark. As we look at the economy policies of the NDA government, one cannot help but see a pattern. And what is the pattern? Ma'am, the pattern is of or if I am to say, it resembles the tale of a reverse Robin Hood. What is a reverse Robin Hood? We know the story of Robin Hood, taking from the rich and giving to the poor. BJP has mastered the art of taking from the poor and giving it to the wealthy elite. So reverse Robin Hood. For instance, I'll give you an example. For instance, the waiving of corporate loans worth thousands of crores using taxpayers' money, while poor farmers struggling with small debts are left to suffer. The government claims to have no money to increase subsidies on essential commodities, yet it slashes corporate tax rates, giving billionaires an even bigger slice of the pie. This is not economic justice. This is economic favoritism at its worst. Then I talk about, or rather I'll come to half federalism. You know, all the members sitting in this house have never heard of this phrase. This is a phrase that I've coined. Half federalism. Why I say half federalism? I'll give you another example just to understand it better. Madam, in Bihar, BJP's ally, Janata Dal United or JDU, have 12 seats. That means BJP has 12 MPs in Bihar. And in Bengal, BJP has 12 MPs. BJP is in power in Bihar and BJP is not in power in Bengal. So Bihar gets bonanza, Bengal gets blockade. This is half federalism. Madam, not a single meaningful financial allocation has been made for the state of Bengal. This is a Bangla Birodhi budget. 1.7 lakh crore is still due to the state of West Bengal under various heads. This is a deliberate financial blockade, a calculated move to stifle Bengal's growth, prosperity and development. West Bengal's spending due on Manrega to the tune of 7,000 crore still remains unpaid, depriving 59 lakh poor workers. The state has launched Karmashri scheme for providing employment opportunities to job card holders, paying 51 lakh workers from its own funds. The central government has not cleared 8,140 crores in housing dues for rural Bengal under Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, depriving 12 lakh beneficiaries. The state government launched the Banglar Bari project last year in the month of December, providing housing to 12 lakh beneficiaries entirely from the state's own funds. Why am I giving you these facts? Because all of you, especially the members sitting in the treasury benches, must know, even though you have deprived West Bengal, the state continues to stand tall as a true testament, an example of Atma Nirbharata, where the mind is without fear, where the head is held high. Chitto jeta bhoy shunno, uchcho jeta shir. While the center withhold funds and play politics with the people of Bengal and their livelihoods, Bengal refuses to beg. We build, we provide, we progress, we grow with or without their support. Bengal has more than doubled its export in the last 10 years. 57 lakh new MSMEs have been added, employing over 1 crore people. Bengal's handloom industry employs over 5 lakh workers, which is the second highest in the country. The state's broadband policy, formulated in 2020, resulted in investment of 7,500 crore in the telecom sector alone. Almost 3 lakh direct employment has been generated in IT companies. Bengal has over 88 lakh MSMEs, which is the second highest in the country. 1 out of 5 MSME are owned by women, which is highest in the country. 36% of workers in these enterprises are female, third highest in the country. Madam, now I'll come to health. India remains one of the lowest healthcare spenders globally, investing a mere 3% of its GDP, far behind China's 5% and United States of America's 16%. For a country of 140 crore people, this level of investment is not just inadequate, it's an outright betrayal of public health. The government has opened floodgates for 100% FDI in insurance, happily inviting foreign profits, but refuses to remove the crushing 18% GST on health insurance. So while the corporates enjoy free rein, the common man is taxed while they are fighting for their own lives. This is not reform. This is a rigged game where the poor and the downtrodden and the common people of the country are deliberately made to lose. Instead of strengthening government hospitals, this government prioritizes private insurance models like PMJAY, whose allocations shot up by 29%, essentially funneling public money into corporate pockets. Strengthening public health care could have benefited millions, but instead government chose to privatize healthcare under the guise of welfare. And if the government truly cared about public health, why has funding for mental health programs like National Tele-Mental Health Scheme has been slashed by 16%? Why is NIMHANS, which is the country's top health mental institute, facing budget cuts? The answer is simple. The government just doesn't care. If healthcare were a priority, this budget would be investing in real solutions, not just mere illusions. Under BJP rule, all of them combined, they excel in crafting headlines. But when it comes to hospitals, medicines, genuine public health investment, the reality is nothing short of an empty set. Madam, now I'll come to half minister. I spoke about half truths. I spoke about half federalism. Now let's talk about half minister. Because our part-time railway minister is also juggling between 2 other ministries. One is electronics and IT, and the other one is information and broadcasting. Running the Indian Railways, which is considered as a lifeline for millions, is not a side gig, madam. But under BJP, governance has become a multitasking circus, delivering half-baked results everywhere. Why I say this? Because from the time this government came in, they have discontinued the railway budget. What they have done for safety, how many kilometers have been covered under Kavach? Between 2015 to 2024, there has been 678 consequential railway accidents, where more than 784 people have lost their lives, leaving more than 2,000 injured. No wonder tracks are crumbling, the tech sector is struggling, and the media is drowning in propaganda. Then, ma'am, I come to half-baked answers. I can ask 50 questions or 100 questions to the government, but let me ask only 5. Why did you promise the people of this country a $5 trillion economy by 2025? We are in 2025 today, in the month of February. And looking at the rate India is growing, that goal will not even be achieved by 2037. Forget about 2025. Why did you slash funds for LPG connection to poor households by 30% over revised estimates? Why have you slashed funds for crop insurance scheme by 25% over revised estimates? Why has the Data Protection Board of India given only 5 crore rupees when the cost of running Parliament for a single day is more than 9 crore rupees? Why has the budget allocation for minority affairs have been slashed by 57%? Decreasing significantly from 1,575 crores in 24-25 to 678 crores in 25-26. These are hard facts. These are data. Ma'am, now I come to half accountability. After half truths, after half federalism, after half minister, after half-baked answers, I come to half accountability. A government is expected to be 100% accountable. But this coalition government believes in half accountability. You all must be wondering, where is the other 50%? Well, that's conveniently covered by the Godi media. Because if you ask the media, according to them, this government is working 200%, is functioning at 200% efficiency. And in their world, in the media's world, there are no failures. Failures are invisible. Questions are forbidden. The only policy is propaganda. Ma'am, let me make just two quick points to prove their half accountability. In price rise, the food inflation in 2024 averaged at 8%. In October, food inflation was at 14-month high. The bottom 5% spends 66 rupees a day, while the cost of 2 veg thalis exceeds 150 rupees. Household savings have dipped to a 50-year low. In case of unemployment, youth unemployment is at a staggering 45%. 3 out of 10 graduates today are unemployed. Under PMKVY, only 18% of the trained candidates were placed. Over 90% of the workforce employed in the informal sector lack job security and benefits. Madam, now I'll come to half delivery. Now let me present before you a few examples of half delivered services. Time and again, this government has misled the people, making tall claims, but has failed to deliver where it truly matters. I'll start with Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao. Launched with much hype and fanfare to promote girl child education and welfare, yet over 80% of the scheme's budget was spent on publicity rather than spending it on the actual benefit for girls. Then I come to Jan Dhan Yojana, bank accounts without bank services. Under the Jan Dhan Yojana, 54.66 crore, that means 50 crore, 54 crore, 66 lakh accounts were opened. But 11 crore, 58 lakh accounts remains inoperative. And out of this 54 crore accounts, 33 crore, 67 lakh accounts have balance less than 1,000 rupees. This is a perfect example of financial inclusion in paper, but financial struggle in reality. Ma'am, they spoke about doubling farmers' income, a forgotten promise. They promised to double the farmers' income by 2022. We are in 2025. But today, farmers are drowning in debt, facing stagnant crop prices, rising input costs, and no legal MSP guarantee. Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana benefit insurance companies more than the farmers. Smart Cities Mission, hype versus reality. They promised over 100 smart cities, but most projects today remain on paper or are rather incomplete. Basic infrastructure in many towns are crumbling while funds remain underutilized or diverted to beautification projects. They spoke about making in India. That means they spoke about revolutionizing the manufacturing industry. But what is the reality and truth of Make in India? More imports, less manufacturing. Local industry today struggles under the rising imports from China, inconsistent policies and low capital investment. Instead of boosting domestic production, India's trade deficit with China has skyrocketed over the years. Unemployment, they promised about 2 crore jobs every year, but in reality, unemployment remains at a 45-year high. They promised houses for all by 2022, yet another broken promise. In 2015, a promise was made to provide every household a home by 2022. 3 years later, in 2025, as the deadline passed, millions still await promised homes, highlighting delays and unmet expectations. Pattern, if you look at the pattern, big announcement and half execution, or rather zero execution. From infrastructure to education, health to employment, BJP's governance is a pattern of half delivery. Grand promises, incomplete execution, and shifting blame when failures are exposed. This budget is like when I went through the budget, I was here when Madam Finance Minister presented the budget, but later I went through the budget document. Ma'am, all I realized is this budget is like those promises where you promise free meals, but charges exorbitantly for, giving a chair to sit, free water, service. So this budget is like a buffet that promises free meal, but charges exorbitantly for water, service and cutlery. While taxpayers find momentary relief in minor reduction in income tax slabs, the government swiftly offsets these benefits through indirect taxes on fuel, essential commodities, rising road tolls, and higher consumer good prices driven by the increased GST rates. It's evident that these reliefs are nothing more than a mere illusion. Much like the Jio's once free data plans, attracting millions of users at a time, and then they raise the tariff sharply, which now comes monthly at a hefty price tag. The government claims to provide relief, but the reality for the middle class tells a different story. Let me give you another small example, and these are real examples. The government claims of an 80,000 tax benefit for an individual whose income is 12 lakh rupees annually. But it's nothing but a misleading farce. They thumb their chest about relief while simultaneously bleeding the common taxpayer dry through GST and unchecked inflation. A taxpayer in this income bracket, that means someone who is earning 12 lakh rupees annually, spends on essential categories like food, housing, education, healthcare, railway travel, air travel, transport, recreation, and each of these are subjected to steep GST rates under NDA's failed economic policies. The result, if you do a quick calculation, you will see that someone earning 12 lakh rupees ends up inadvertently paying 98,000 in GST. So the illusion of 80,000 tax benefit that BJP is desperately trying to sell, in reality is snatched away from GST alone. That means someone earning 12 lakh rupees is inadvertently having to pay 98,000 rupees on the account of GST alone. Then you have surcharges, you have cess, you have toll tax, you have many other tax. You have STT, security tax. And why I talk about GST? Because whatever one required to exist, madam, from medicines to tea, from toiletries to toothpaste, from hair oil to cooking oil, from fuel to oxygen cylinders, from rice to sugar, from butter to ghee, from undergarments to footwear, from biscuits to even popcorn at the movies, everything is taxed. In fact, more is lost to GST than they claim to give back. To make matters worse, there are several other taxes like I mentioned. There is toll tax, there are security transaction tax, there are cesses, there are surcharges, and then there's inflation also, which continues to erode whatever little remains. With an average 6% annual inflation, if someone is earning 12 lakh rupees today, that will shrink down to 10 lakh in 3 years. The only thing that is not taxed, or is rather untouched, is BJP's list of misleading promises and their sheer incompetence. That's only untaxed. The budget remains completely failure, and the budget also reminds me from a scene from a popular movie of Three Idiots. All of us have seen the movie. It went very popular, and throughout caste, creed and religion, everyone loved the movie. So ma'am, the budget reminds me of the movie Three Idiots, where Amir Khan's character, Rancho, exposes the education system's obsession with rote learning over genuine understanding. Similarly, today's government reminds me of the deceptive college director virus. And the role of virus was played by, I'm not talking about the viruses present here, I'm talking about the college director virus whose role was played by Boman Irani. So the college director virus, what he used to do, he used to offer flashy numbers, grand schemes that prioritized ranking over real progress. Much like virus, the focus seems to be on the surface level over real achievements, presenting a polished image rather than addressing the true needs of the people. Or if we take a page from the history, the British during the colonial rule, they promised reforms while continuing to exploit India's resources. BJP's budget follows the same playbook, advertising tax relief while ensuring the burden is transferred through hidden economic policies that favor big corporations and the elite, leaving small businesses and working class struggling. Madam, the budget presented over the last one decade perfectly sums up NDA and the BJP's version of Achhe Din, reflecting not just their grand narrative, but also the harsh reality of common people's struggle under the NDA's rule and regime. If I'm a citizen of India, I have to pay tax on the money I earn. If I'm a citizen of India, I have to pay tax on the money I spend. I'm a citizen of India, I have to pay tax on the things I buy, I have to pay tax on the things I sell. And moreover, pay tax on things that are already taxed, bought with money that is already taxed.
Correct.
Just imagine, you earn, you pay tax. You spend, you pay tax. You buy, you pay tax. You sell, you pay tax. And then you pay tax on things those are already taxed from the money that is already taxed. This sums up the budget completely. The people of India have woken up, and they will no longer be misled by these empty promises and false claims. The government must pay attention to the aspirations of 140 crore citizens. If they don't, they should brace themselves. What started as a teaser in June 2024 will soon become a full-blown blockbuster. After all, the saying goes, never underestimate the power of the common man. And they are all, every Indians who's watching this, who has seen the budget, who has voted in 24 and is going to vote again, exercise their franchise, they are far better scriptwriters than the BJP members of this house. India now sees the truth clearly. BJP stands for Bhashan, Jumla and Propaganda, where speeches replaces real action. And NDA stands for, well, no prize for guessing, not delivering anything.